Hello, my name is David Robinson, and this is a short half-hour presentation on mindfulness. And what we're going to be covering today is what mindfulness is, why it's useful, how to do it, and then we're going to do it. I think the best way of coming at what mindfulness is first of all to discuss what it isn't. Now, as creatures, we spend an awful lot of time during the day on automatic pilot. If you drive, you'll probably have had this experience of driving perhaps to some familiar location, perhaps to your children's school or to work or to the local shops, and you get to the destination and you can't remember how you've got there. And if you're very, very absent-minded, like me, you might have the experience of going from one room of the house to another and not remembering why you're in the second room. And we talk about absence of mind, don't we? The mind is not empty, but the mind is absent from the place in which the body is. And in fact, the mind is full of thoughts. They're just not thoughts related to what we're actually doing. We might be thinking about the argument we've just had with our wife or husband, what we're planning to buy at the shop, what's going wrong at work or what's going right, but we're not present in what we're actually doing. And so often, unfortunately, this negative automatic thinking comes laden with negative emotion, which makes the power of the thinking all the more compulsive, which makes the speed of the thinking quicker. So that's negative automatic thinking. Secondly, we have this problem with awareness. We're quite often not aware of what we're thinking. And when we bring people into therapy, quite often when we ask them about their negative thinking patterns, they're not aware of what they are, and we have to tease them out and find out what's actually going on in someone's mind. Now, we're all more vulnerable at certain times to think negatively. It might be after we've had an argument, it might be on our way to work on Monday morning, it might be in the evening, it might be in the morning, but we're all more susceptible at certain points in the week and the day to think negatively. And we're not aware of this often. And we also, each of us, have our own unique signature of negative thinking. There are similarities between the way we think, but each of us will be perhaps all too familiar with our own thinking traps that we fall into over and over again. And the reason we fall into those traps is because we're not aware of what's happening, of how the circumstances we're in relate to what we think, how our body is contributing to what we think, how our emotions are contributing to what we think. So, automatic pilot, absence of awareness. Thirdly, we also have this problem with the past and with the future. Now, some people, usually depressed people, spend an awful lot of time thinking negatively about the past, ruminating on what's gone wrong, on what someone said to them 5 minutes ago, a week ago, 30 years ago, or ruminating on what they've done wrong, on what they may feel guilty for. And this rumination has an uncontrollable quality to it, but actually there's an intention behind it, and the intention is to find out why we're unhappy. What was it that went wrong in the past that has led to this situation that we're in now, where we feel unhappy? But of course, it doesn't work. The more we think about the past, the more we ruminate on what's gone wrong, the more dejected we become, the more guilty we become, the more angry we become. There are other people, usually anxious people, who spend an awful lot of time thinking about the future, making negative predictions about all the things that might go wrong. You know, what if this happens? What if I get ill? What if my loved ones get ill? What if I haven't got any money? What if I have an argument with someone? What if people don't like me? And so on. All these negative predictions. And again, it has a kind of uncontrollable quality to it, but there is an intention behind the worry. And the intention is either to stop the bad thing from happening or to be ready when the bad thing does happen. So we're so often on automatic pilot. We're so often unaware of how our mind is relating to our body or to the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And we're so often lost in ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. So mindfulness is the opposite of those things. When we commit to becoming mindful, we come out of the automatic thinking and we pay attention on purpose. We come out of this lack of awareness. We come out of dwelling endlessly on the past or planning or worrying about the future. And we attend to the present moment. And we take the heat out of our thinking, the emotional heat out of our thinking, by focusing on the present moment on purpose, without judgment, without evaluation, without trying to work out who's right, who's wrong, but just accepting the uniqueness of this present moment in all its fullness, without judgment. Now, if we do these things, if we slow our thinking down, if we spend more time in the present moment, if we spend less time on automatic pilot, there are likely to be some long-term consequences for us, some long-term beneficial consequences for us. And the first consequence is this: self-acceptance. Strange to say, the less time we spend thinking negatively about ourselves or about our life, the more likely we are to be able to accept ourselves. And not only that, the more likely we are to be able to accept others and to be less angry or resentful or less irritable and so on. Secondly, the more aware we become of our compulsive reactions to situations, the less reactive we will be, the less prone we'll become to be stressed out or to worry or to become dejected because of circumstances changing, and the more flexibly we'll be able to respond to life's challenges and life's circumstances. Thirdly, the more sensitive we become to what's happening to us and to our interior life, the more sensitive we become to what may be happening in the interior world of others, the more compassionate we become, or can become. So if we're regularly mindful, then we can be more compassionate, we can respond more flexibly, and we can be more accepting of ourselves and others. And this is not a pretext for self-satisfaction or for doing nothing, but it can be a springboard to committed action, to committed practical assistance to others. So all of that sounds pretty good. So how do we do it? How do we be mindful? Well, you don't have to meditate to be mindful. Many people I've known who are very mindful don't meditate, so it's not necessary to meditate, but there's no doubt that meditation can be very helpful in learning how to be more mindful. So how do we meditate? Well, in a moment, we're going to use a few simple techniques, time-honored techniques, that can assist you to anchor yourself in the present moment and to enjoy and live in the present moment and to accept the spaciousness of it without continually going to the past or going to the future or getting lost in negative automatic thinking. And the first technique we're going to use is mindfulness of breath. Now, As long as we live, we're breathing, but we're most of the time not aware of it unless we're short of breath, or we get out of breath and so on. But when we become mindful of breath, we attend to what's happening to our body as the breath comes in and the breath leaves us. And this gives us something to anchor ourselves in the present moment, something for our attention to feed on and rest in. Mindfulness of breath, which we'll be using in a minute. Secondly, bodily awareness. Again, we're quite often not aware of our bodies unless we're in pain or we're feeling some sense of bodily discomfort. But we use the body scan, we use the skin, the largest organ in the body, the sensations on the skin, the sense of how our different parts of the body relate to each other, again, to anchor us in the present moment. So that's body scan. The third thing we're going to be using is mindfulness of sound. Now, we've got 5 senses: seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. But for many of us, it's sound that can help us to stay in the present moment, can help us to keep an empty, clear head as we attend to the present moment. So, I mean, if you're able, wherever you are, to open a window and listen to the sounds outside, that might be helpful when we get to that part of the exercise. And the last part of this short meditation we're going to do is a meditation on difficulty. And we'll be using the breath to explore difficulty. Now, this year has been very tough for most of us because of this pandemic that we've all been going through. And each of us will have responded to the pandemic in a different way. Some of us will be very concerned about getting ill, about our loved ones getting ill. Some of us will be very concerned about our livelihoods, not being able to pay the mortgage or the rent, not being able to put food on our family's table. So we'll all have responded differently to this great challenge that we've all been going through. Mindfulness, the regular practice of mindfulness, can help us to respond to this challenge of COVID, respond to the challenge of the lockdown, respond to all the challenges in our lives in a way that hopefully will make us more calm, more productive, and more compassionate. So before we start the meditation, just a few pointers. People sometimes ask, well, how should I sit? What should I do with my body during a meditation? The best thing, if possible, is to sit with a straight back, the neck straight, so that we have a kind of alert sense about us, and our body is helping us to be alert, to stay in the present moment. But we don't want to try too hard. We want to be alert, but we want to be relaxed. If we try too hard, we should become frustrated, because thoughts will inevitably arise. Every time we meditate, thoughts arise. The mind is continually generating thoughts. That's what minds do. And so we don't want to become frustrated when our mind generates thoughts. So what should we do with the thoughts that arise as we're trying to be silent, trying to attend to the present moment with an empty mind? What we do is we open the back door of our mind and we allow the thoughts to flow through and then reattend to the present moment. And if you get hooked into a train of thought and you come right out of the meditation, as we so often do, when you wake up, you don't become impatient with yourself, you don't berate yourself, but you congratulate yourself for waking up, and then you escort your attention gently back to the present moment, or to the particular technique we're using to stay in the present moment. Now, if you haven't meditated before, you may wonder what it's all about, and you may wonder why anyone would want to do anything so boring as to slow down, empty the mind, and attend to the present moment. This modern world in which we live is surrounded by stimulation, and it's got much more stimulating, if you can use that word, over the last 20 years with all the social media applications, Facebook, WhatsApp, the internet, YouTube, and so on. So we're continually moving from one form of stimulation to the next. And all these things are very good, of course. But the trouble is, it can lead to an unquiet mind. It can lead to a situation in which we lose control of our thinking, in which we lose control of ourselves, in which we're continually seeking for that stimulation that will make us feel alive and real. So with meditation, what we do is we take ourselves out of that situation and we remove all these stimulants. And for a short period of time, we commit to becoming aware of what's happening in our bodies and in our minds in the particular room in which we find ourselves without all these stimulants. And the idea of doing this is to help eventually to assist us to find some peace of mind. So let's do it. Just to reiterate, we will start with the mindfulness of breath. Then we will do a body scan. Then we will do mindfulness of sound. And then we're going to do a short meditation on difficulty, using the breath to explore the difficulty. Start. So I want you to begin by breathing deeply from the base of your belly, as though you're expanding an imaginary balloon. Noticing how your diaphragm expands as the breath comes in and then relaxes as the breath leaves. Breathing without hurry, without impatience, without trying to get anywhere. But accepting where we are at this unique moment and in this unique place. Breathing in through the nose and then breathing out through the mouth. Perhaps extending the out breath so it's 3 or 4 times as long as your in breath, so you're really emptying your lungs as you breathe out. Just aligning ourselves with our breath, resting our attention on our breath, emptying our minds as far as we're able. And now as we continue to breathe slowly and without hurry, we begin our body scan by focusing on the base of the spine and just allowing our attention to rest there for 2 seconds. Then up to the small of the back. To between the shoulder blades, breathing slowly. to the base of the neck, to the back of the head, to the crown of the head, to the forehead, to between the eyes, to the bridge of the nose, to the lips, to the throat, to the chest, and to the belly. And now we move on to mindfulness of sound. And I want you to pick out one sound that you can hear, either in the house or outside of the house. And if there are no sounds apparent, most of us have this white noise that is going on in our ears all the time. So pick out one sound, and I'd like you, as far as you're able, to empty your mind and attend to that sound for the next 30 seconds, breathing slowly. If your mind wanders, don't worry. Just escort your attention gently back to the sound that you've chosen to listen to. And now I'd like you to listen to all sounds together without discrimination. Just empty your mind and immerse yourself in this river of sound that is all around us. Waking up again and again, returning to the present moment again and again and again. Finally, I want you to bring to mind a time during the past week when you were particularly stressed out, maybe irritated, maybe dejected. And I want you to remember how that made you feel in your body. And we all store our stress in different places. The belly, the throat, the forehead, the neck, the shoulders, or the back. And I want you to choose one place where you store your stress and just to explore that place and the edges of that place with a friendly curiosity. Remembering how you felt when you were stressed or worried or angry or dejected. And then with your in-breath, I would like you to breathe in to that place in your body where you store your stress. And then with your out-breath, to let go of the stress and surrender it as far as you're able. And to do this a few times. Making your out-breath 3 or 4 times as long as your in-breath, as you really let go of that stress and that tension as far as you're able. Noticing the stress that remains and accepting it. And now we return to our breath for 2 last deep breaths right from the base of the belly. Finish. Okay, so if that was your first introduction to meditation, I hope you found it useful. I hope you found the presentation useful. And if you'd like to explore mindfulness more, there is a massive material on the internet, and there are massive apps that you can use. Test them out, find an app that works for you, stick with it. And if you meditate regularly, every day, if you're a faithful meditator, then you're almost bound to find that it will help you to be more self-accepting, to respond more flexibly to life's challenges, to be more compassionate and more committed in what you do. Goodbye.